All right, Chris.
Oh
I
my
think the
gosh.
most interesting story of the week was the TikTok fight on Capitol Hill, which
Yes.
I think shortly after we recorded last week, the House, was it the Energy and Commerce Committee?
I thought it was judiciary. I forget, but yes,
Um,
50 nil.
Unanimously voted to advance the bill on the House floor, and then the House approved the bill by enormous margins,
Overwhelming, yes.
354 to 60 something this week. And the Wall Street Journal did an excellent piece on how TikTok was unprepared for this, which was astonishing. And it highlighted a couple of characters who are not lawmakers who helped advance this. That was really, really interesting, and noted that TikTok's policy folks, who are Americans, had just gone to Singapore to brief TikTok executives, and something like a month ago had told them that they're in the clear. So a huge miss on TikTok's part. And the Journal writes, Anthony Goldblum, a San Francisco-based data scientist and tech executive, started analyzing data TikTok published in its dashboard for ad buyers, showing the number of times users watched videos with certain hashtags. He found far more views for videos with pro-Palestinian hashtags than those with pro-Israel hashtags. While the ratio fluctuated, he found that at times it ran 69-1 in favor of videos with pro-Palestinian hashtags. And it underscores how this effort really gained traction after October 7th,
Mm-hmm.
because they found that the CCP was amplifying algorithms that favored Hamas.
Well, but it's also true that the people who use TikTok are younger than the population as a whole, and would be more inclined. Demographically speaking, you would already get a slant that way,
Definitely.
even without boosting.
So, but he says TikTok has said its platform doesn't promote one side of an issue over another. Goldblum, who has advocated a ban or sale on TikTok, posted about his finding on X, gaining widespread attention. Then Nikki Haley cited the analysis. Goldblum heard from the office of Mike Gallagher, who heads this committee, and they developed an alliance with the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco, who had been vocal with the Biden administration, and she obviously is in the Department of Justice, and they got input from the National Security Council, and what developed was an alliance between a Republican and a Democrat on Capitol Hill and the Biden Justice Department that allowed this bill to move forward, and it's a really, really interesting piece. And all without making headlines while this moved forward, very quietly in the background.
That is true. And TikTok definitely made their plight worse when they did the push notification to all of the TikTok users in the country, telling them to call Washington, because they mistakenly flexed their muscles just at a point when lawmakers were concerned about the size of the muscles. I found interesting the coalition. So Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump all came out against the legislation. And it was like, okay, I can see the self-interest of Musk, who does business in China. I can see the self-interest of Trump, who had a meeting with the largest American investor in TikTok, who I assume said soothing things to Donald Trump.
And he's a big Republican donor. His name is Jeff Yass.
Yep.
And I believe upwards of $20 billion of his $27 billion net worth is tied up in TikTok.
And much like Donald Trump re-evaluating Bud Light's perfidies ahead of a big fundraiser with Anheuser-Busch. And I don't think we should underappreciate in this cycle how much Donald Trump's desperate need for money is going to drive a lot of what you see. He's got, I forget, what was it, 60? The number of the amount on his legal bills is so astonishing that it boggles the mind. But
you know what, though? Trump is so transactional.
Yeah.
Just wait for the anti-TikTok guys to get in there. He can be bought for a Happy Meal.
But Trump and Musk both hate Meta, and Meta is the primary competitor to TikTok. But there was a very conscientious civil libertarian argument that was being made about this, which I think Tucker Carlson was alluding to, which basically is, this is a speech question. And Thomas Massey and Rand Paul and other libertarians made a case against this, saying this is a backdoor that the government can classify if you get classified as what, and there's a provision in there about misinformation, that if you're engaged in misinformation, and those are subjective things. I read with great interest.
Can I just say something on that?
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly disagree with that. And the audacity of those guys to talk about this as a speech issue when the owners of TikTok ruthlessly police free speech in their own country and then use it as a propaganda tool in our country and exploit our freedoms against us to advance their geopolitical goals truly boggles the mind.
Well,
it boggles the mind.
One of the co-sponsors of the legislation, Jake Auchincloss, my colleague Blake Berman interviewed him. We're recording this on Thursday, interviewed him on Wednesday. And what he said was, this isn't primarily to him about national security. This is about the mental health of our young people, and this is about the messaging that is being pushed forward and all of this stuff.
Well, it's going to do nothing. There can still be TikTok.
Well, I think people who make I think there's a fair point to be made about what's the value of this company. And Jeff Yass may not be a particularly appealing character to some, but people who invested in this and put money into this, if it gets taken away, essentially, if there's a fire sale and the government says you have to sell, what's going to happen? The buyers are going to wait until 30 seconds before the kill switch comes on, and they'll say, I'll give you $50 for it, and you can do that. This is not an easy or straightforward question, but I was impressed. The piece by Lee Bollinger, former president of Colombia, famous from the Grutter v. Bollinger lawsuit. For starting a long-running debate. I remember in my first job at the New York Sun, Bollinger invited Ayatollah Khamenei to speak at Columbia's campus in 2006. Not a conservative.
Well, that was, I say this not to say he's a liberal or conservative or whatever, but that was really what I mark in my mind as the beginning of these big campus wars. Who should be welcome on campus? Who should not? And there was a big firestorm around that. And Barry Weiss at the time was a student at Columbia who campaigned against welcoming Khamenei on campus. And here we are.
And so here's what Bollinger writes in the New York Review. The First Amendment spirit, if not its letter, guides the platforms themselves as they strive to provide an open forum, engaging in as little moderation as necessary to keep the sites useful. The fact that powerful private corporations control much of what we see and hear is nothing new. It's just that the new private entities have entered the field. Social media, like more traditional media, is affirmatively protected by the First Amendment. And as a practical matter, the platforms are critical to ensuring that we actually have something approximating what the Supreme Court ruled in New York Times v. Sullivan, described as uninhibited, robust, and wide open debate. It's messy. It's far from ideal. It will sometimes mean that people are exposed to communication that deeply offends them, and some voices and messages will get more amplification than others. But that is the price of freedom now as much as it was in James Madison's day. That's what he wrote. And I tend to agree. And I don't know enough about national security. I don't know anything about national security. And if there's something in the pipes on TikTok that makes it a national security threat, then our national security community should take action on that. But when I heard Auchincloss say, yeah, but that's the point, is to regulate the speech, I was like, well, I don't know about regulating speech.